There we go. I heard it. Okay, here we go. So welcome everyone. Before we go through the objectives, for those who do not know me, my name is Hayley. I am the district PBIS coordinator for our district. PBIS is Positive Behavior Interventions and Support. And I am so privileged and excited to be with you this afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I know you've probably been on the screen all day, but I appreciate it. I am currently in my cubicle, which is at the Salinas Adult School building. And so I just wanted to welcome you. My previous roles have been an English teacher at the high school level at Alvarez High School. Way back when I did my student teaching at Washington Middle School. So I also have that middle school lens. I know, I remember you, Deborah, and our poetry. And I also was an intervention specialist at Alvarez and helped work in the Wellness Center. So I have different lenses. So I have teacher, socio-emotional, counselor and support, intervention, and then now I help our school sites with their wellness centers and their PBIS teams in all three tiers. So that's a little bit about me. So if you haven't told already, I'm a little upbeat when I present, so I'll try to slow down a little bit. But our objectives for today are to gain an overview of socio-emotional learning. This is really an introduction. You might have gone to sessions already during teacher prep regarding Maslow before Bloom, or maybe a different session that had to do more with examples of what it would look like in the classroom for socio-emotional learning and how it would benefit students. But this is really a quick and dirty, here's what it is, here's the introduction, now let's get some practical skills in there. So you have some tools in your toolkit when you start the year, okay? We're gonna talk about healthy relationships and how to build them with students, especially returning from last year. And then again, those practical skills. If you are new to this session and you've just entered, the resource guide will be posted one more time, and the links are always at the bottom of the screen if you need anything. So here we go. Okay, I already said my hello. Don't need to do that again. Okay, so as PBIS coordinator, I like to implement little nuggets of PBIS from here. So this came from a briefing about getting back to school after a crisis or a pandemic from PBIS. And I see Alexandra smiling at me. So Alexandra, would you mind reading this beautiful, beautiful sentence?
It goes without saying that students need to feel safe and have supportive relationships for their social, emotional, and academic learning to be optimized.
Thank you. And I see Deborah, can you read the next sentence, please?
Students experiencing trauma, such as from public health crises, weather disasters, or other upsetting events, may have been exposed to unpredictable schedules, inconsistent supervision, or food insecurity, and desperately need school to be their safest, most predictable, and most positive setting, especially if they've been displaced or are without utilities or basic comforts.
Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate it.
Wow.
I know. So we know that our students, even our staff, right, even our other stakeholder groups have been experiencing all types of trauma because of this world event, this public health crisis, and they want school to be the safest, most predictable, and most positive setting. Even as staff members, right, we like when there's consistency, right? I know when this meeting is every week. This is when I can ask questions. This is how the school bell schedule is, right? Knowing all that information and that consistency makes us feel safe. So similarly with students. And so we're gonna reflect on this a little bit. So in the chat, could you either answer the first or the second? You get a choice. But what words or phrases or ideas stood out for you? The other question you may answer is, what do you currently do to create a safe, predictable, and positive classroom? And I'll put the questions in the chat in case you need them. Thank you, Eva. Supportive relationships, optimized. Thank you for using the chat. I appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joshua. So you used structured assignment format for that consistency. I bet your students really appreciate that. Oh, predictable classroom. Oh, lean on routines, procedures. Did you know that's also a trauma-informed practice? So making those safe, predictable environments for students so they feel empowered. They know what to do. They know where things are. Same introductions every day. Thank you, Jennifer. Consistency, daily routines. Yeah, so you already do a lot of these restorative and trauma-informed practices to make our students feel safe and things are predictable. Yes. Training kids and myself in resiliency is great. Regular procedures, thank you. And so I see Alexandra mentioning here supportive relationships. Greet each student by name. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, that relationship aspect. Thank you all those who have posted in the chat. And our next component is really understanding what is SEL? What can we do that this is happening, right? And so this is when we really lean on and leverage our SEL, our relationships, and creating belonging, that sense of belonging in the classroom community. That's going to be really important as we start this upcoming year. So what is SEL exactly? I know that there were several sessions about SEL. I know that there was one from a school social worker yesterday talking about Maslow before you can bloom, right? That's also my mantra. And there was also other presentations about SEL pertaining to students at the adult school, but also strategies that you can apply to your own classroom. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but because I know there's some prior knowledge, I'm not going to dive in as deep, but this is still an introduction, so don't worry. So SEL is really the plate. So I know that when it comes to a classroom, there's a lot that goes on that plate, right? There's procedures and routines, there's your content, there's your Common Core state standards, building relationships, student structured talk, productive group learning, right? There's a lot of different things that you can put on that plate. You have your classroom norms, things of that nature. However, none of that's gonna work without students who know how to self-monitor, how to build relationships with others, how to have responsible decision-making, because our students, whether you're a middle school or a high school educator, their prefrontal cortex is not developed yet, so they're very impulsive, right? So they're still practicing their socio-emotional skills. But if you have students that may have challenges self-monitoring, they might need extra support to reach your classroom norms, or they might have to understand relationships a little bit more in order to work together in a group, right? And so we want to make sure that they have those skills in place so they can access your curriculum, your Bloom's taxonomy, other classroom structures or student structured talk routines that you want them to do in order to access your content. So SEL is really the plate that you put other things on top of so that they can be successful in your classroom. So SEL is the plate. Okay, and so SEL is really the process by which we acquire the skills, the knowledge, the attitudes to understand one's emotions, strengths, and challenges. And keep in mind that as adults, we practice this too. So just like learning any other content, you have to practice in order to get it right. Same with sports, right? You have to practice your golf swing over and over and over again to get better at it. Same with socio-emotional skills. So the more practice I have of turn and talk, right, the better I get at it because I know that routine. The more practice I get and, ooh, I'm feeling anxious. This is what I do, right? Or I'm feeling nervous about speaking in front of the class. So what am I going to do to cope with it? And so as I practice those skills, I'm able to strengthen that skill. Okay, so understanding one's emotions, strengths, and challenges, so important when understanding socio-emotional learning. Managing emotions to achieve your positive goals. So if you have a student in your class that maybe is escalated because they're in math and they're not confident and they don't have that growth mindset yet in math, and they're like, oh, I feel like an anger, right, emotion, or I feel very frustrated, and so that causes me to shut down because I'm stressed, then they can't achieve their goal of understanding that math standard. And so managing emotions is also part of that skill. Same with feeling and showing empathy for others. I saw this a lot with my English curriculum when I was in the classroom, especially when you have characters, right? You're trying to get into the mindset of a certain character. So that's also a way to strengthen that skill of empathy. You can do this in other subjects as well, but knowing perspective taking. So, oh, that's how that person might be feeling. I have empathy for this person because they must be feeling this way. So showing empathy for others is also part of this. Establishing and maintaining positive relationships. You'll see that as a thread all through this presentation. And then making constructive choices about behavior. That's one of the ongoing dialogues on this upcoming year, is really what behaviors might we see in the classroom as we return. And then how can we encourage students to make constructive choices about their own behavior, or to own their behavior and how it affected your classroom community. So those are things to keep in mind when talking about socio-emotional learning. And so socio-emotional learning is really has to do with the 5 core competencies. So this visual is from castle.org. And so theirs is the collaborative on socio-emotional learning. And this is based in 5 core competencies. So you have your self-awareness, you have your self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. Those are the 5. A lot of our district practices, pending district practices, are aligned with CASTLE. They're the most evidence-based entity that helps with socio-emotional learning across, it's international, but also nationally. So a lot of district practices are going to be aligned to CASTLE. So these 5 competencies. And I'm going to play a little video so we understand them a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and test this out. Let me know if it doesn't quite work yet. Let's see. Let's see if I can hear it. Can you hear? Thumbs up. Awesome. Here we go.
Social and emotional skills are the essential skills for success in school, work, and life.
Social emotional learning centers their mind and body. It reduces their emotional tension so they can be open to new content and material. We find that academic outcomes increase exponentially when students are nurtured, loved, and cared for, that we get much more out of them when we first address social emotional needs. So for us, it's actually an academic intervention and not just an emotional one.
If we expect students to be college and career ready, it's important for us to focus on these skills and competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Self-awareness is the ability to identify your emotions, to be able to tie thoughts and feelings to behaviors.
We find that self-awareness is one of the hardest things for young people, being aware of their own body space and the impact of their words and emotions on other people. So a lot of the work we do is reflective, through conflict mediation, through circles, through journaling, having them see their own impact on the world and then how to shift that or make a different choice next time.
Self-management is the ability to self-motivate, to have self-control, to regulate one's emotions.
In the classroom, that may be a breathing exercise, or that might be counting to 5 or taking a break.
So with students who don't really know how to deal with their anger or don't really know how to resolve conflict. We're giving them a tool that helps them deal with it in a less stressful way.
Social awareness is about embracing diversity, showing empathy for others. Activities might include service learning projects, addressing social justice issues. Role-playing is a great opportunity for students to address how a person might have felt in a conflict on the playground.
We're going to see if other people have had some of the very same experiences around bullying that we've had.
You're in my boat if you have a bully now.
Wow, I see a lot of people.
Relationship skills are important in project-based learning. It's the ability to work cooperatively with someone, to resolve conflict.
It's the one skill you need your whole life. You may not need calculus tomorrow, but you have to know how to work in relationship, whether it's for a coworker or a life partner. You have to know how to handle conflict and how to handle challenges.
Sometimes at recess, Marnie would come over and just start talking about us and saying mean things.
Is it your job to make Danae's job at school hard?
No, I know it's a form of bullying, and sometimes I'll say sorry to her.
So you choose to be someone's ally and make a better choice.
Responsible decision-making is considering the well-being for self and others. It's evaluating the consequences for various behaviors or actions. We do this through shared agreements, one-to-one problem solving, or having students debate an issue.
If you were like, hey, Kashida, how much does an A cost in this class? And you took out your wallet and and I was like, I think $50 would work. Which one of us would be corrupt in that case?
You're the one that's asking for the money?
We're truly teaching these students to be productive citizens. We're teaching them life skills. We're teaching them how to problem solve effectively. We're teaching them how to be resilient.
I think of all the billions of dollars we've spent on Title I and all these intervention programs, and when all is said and done, what do we have to show for it? I think we're trying to teach technical things instead of devoting some of the resources to teach who you are as a person. Once you know who you are, then learning becomes exciting because you've already established a discipline.
It's important for teachers and principals to understand that it can't be a binder off the shelf. It can't be something that happens from 2:15 to 4:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It has to be part of the school culture.
Giving teachers flexibility, giving them a range of skills, giving them different ways that it can look, and allowing them to take their own personality and match that to what they want in their classroom has been the best way to get authentic, true practice.
If we continue to do what we've always done, we're always going to get what we always got. Is that good enough? I don't think it's good enough for the 21st century. We need to be the outliers to try things that have never been tried and see if they work. What are we waiting for?
All right. Okay, so I know that was just an intro of those 5 and what that could look like while looking at classrooms. I think that grounds us a little bit more on what this looks like, but something I would just want to bring up and be mindful about is it's supposed to be authentic, genuine, connected with your already existing teacher identity, not something to buy and implement. So this is something that could be part of your teaching practice that you already have and part of your teacher persona that you already have. So not doing something that's so inauthentic to yourself. So really tying this into what you're already doing in the classroom to make it authentic for you. So we're going to connect this to ourselves because we have to first and foremost see where we are in this, because we need to make sure that we're also practicing, we're also modeling these for students in the classroom. And we're modeling that behavior that we want to see. And so our next thing is to, is to look at your own SEL competencies. So if you're in this slide, you can click this link. If you are not in this slide, on the resource guide. So this resource guide right here, and I'll put it in the chat one more time. If we go down to where it says Castle, Wheel, and Explanation and click on that link, I'll also put it in the chat really quick. Here we are. So we're going to go down to where it has the 5 competencies right here. So again, I just click the link. I'm on the second page where it has the 5 competencies. So self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So I'm going to let 5 minutes to kind of read, learn what they're all about. And then to yourself, if you can see, okay, my strength is this one, but my area of growth is this one. And that will just be information for yourself as a self-reflection. And so we'll come back together at about 3:03. I'm going to give you some time. We have about 3 more minutes left. And so if you've already read them, kind of self-assessed, maybe 3 of those bullets you're really great at, but the other parts are where there's areas of growth. Just be mindful that our students are the same way. Some students are really, really, really strong in self-awareness, but they have trouble with relationship skills, right? So just like you as an adult, that may have some areas of growth, some things that are your strengths, same with our students. And so identify one strength, one competency that you're like, oh, I rock at this so hard. And so we're going to do a Slido real quick, just a poll of where our strengths are as a collective group. So if you can go to slido.com, I'll put it in the chat. That wasn't it. And then if you can type in 763761. If you go to slido.com, it's joining as a participant in the top, that blue streak right there, that's where you would go. And I'll put it up one more time. Oh, wonderful. We got 8 people. We got 10 people. Wonderful, wonderful. We got 18 people. Great. All right, let's see where we're at. Well, I will figure that out, and then I'll show you a little bit later. But I'm having a slight tech issue, so we'll show you at the end as we're closing. And so I'm going to go ahead and move forward. But thank you for identifying your strength. We do have a strength. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is relationships, so how this plays a role. So as we know, one of the core competencies is building relationships, right? And so here are some tools that you can utilize in order to build relationships. Building relationships with others, especially with your students, is such a skill and resiliency. It's also a trauma-informed practice, and it's been mentioned in a lot of different briefings moving into this school year how important building relationships with your students will be. They're coming in with all kinds of experiences from the past year. You are coming in with all kinds of experiences from the past year, but building relationships makes them feel like they belong, which leads to engagement with them being a part of your school climate and culture, but also your classroom climate and culture. So building relationships is associated with resilience for youth that have had experienced trauma, higher academic engagement, higher percentage of attendance and grades, and then higher teacher satisfaction because you have relationships with your students and you know who they are and they're human beings, whole students in your classroom that are engaging with what you have to say. So it does lead to all of these things, focusing on building relationships. So here are some tools for your toolkit. Again, practical strategies this session. So the first one, and I know you've heard about it, but it's the most evidence-based strategy in classroom management and classroom climate that I can give you, which is greetings at the door. It sounds so simple, but as you see students coming in, right, and you say hi to them, you can see if there's something wrong. So that's where you see like what clothes they're wearing, if they're eating, if they're in emotional distress, if they're excited to be there, right? And so just having that first interaction of your class period be a positive one and you're welcoming them in your classroom sets the tone for your class. So even if you had like a student you switch off every week and they're like the greeting master and they're the ones at the door greeting everyone, and then you say hi to people as they come in, that's an additional strategy. But so the first interaction is a positive one. Okay. And then as staff members, we're like unofficial screeners. So if there are, mental health issues or things that you notice that may need a CPS report, or things that you're like, oh, they didn't have a good morning. So you can see it on your student. So you're like an unofficial screener as they come into your classroom. So that's something that I just wanted to make sure to put here. If you want the official brief from PBIS, it's also linked in the resource guide. Another strategy is behavior-specific praise. It's so simple, but I cannot say it enough. So behavior-specific praise statements, if your class norm is to be respectful, right? And during maybe productive group work, you have norms, right? So these are the things you need to do. If you see and observe those things happening with a group, you want to make sure that you are acknowledging and praising that behavior that you saw, that you wanted them to do. Then they're more likely to do it, okay? This also works with adults, by the way. It also works with family, also used it with family. But so behavior-specific praise, instead of saying, thank you for doing that, it's so general. The student doesn't know what they did that was right. And then they might say, me? Are you talking to me? Or who are you talking to, right? So to make a behavior-specific praise statement, it's Megan, you identify the student or the group, right? So if you have group numbers, group 2, I see that you're doing this, so be specific. So Megan, you did such a great job showing work on each problem. And then identify what you want them to do. So Megan, you did such a great job showing your work on each problem. I can tell you work through every step on your own. So you're actually praising the behavior that you want to see that met your expectation. If you say, group 3, that was an awesome job, they don't know what they did that was awesome. So if they did their roles correctly, and there's a facilitator, there's a different person who's the scribe, there's a timekeeper and a spokesperson, and they're actually having a productive conversation around your topic, that's what you acknowledge. Similarly with socio-emotional learning. So if you see a skill like you want the student to present in front of the class and you see them take a couple deep breaths in order to like calm themselves before presenting, and then they did a really awesome job, that's something that you want to encourage and appreciate. So not, Morgan, you did such a great job with your presentation, but also acknowledge, like, I see that you took a couple deep breaths for your presentation to calm before you spoke, and I really appreciate that. That's a good strategy. So be very specific with what you're praising, okay? This also works with your norms. So if your norms, classroom norms are to be prepared, and this is what it looks like, and you see students doing that, acknowledge that they're doing that, then they're more likely to do it again. Students will go to great lengths to be praised, okay? That includes our students that may have used their behaviors to communicate. So you may have students with challenging behaviors, but they're trying to tell you that they need something, but it's just coming out the wrong way because they don't know how to do it the right way yet. So those students also need praise, okay? So just because maybe they're struggling with a lot of things at home maybe, or they don't know, they're trying to get used to the classroom norms because they spent a year at home. Home was one way, and now they're reacclimating to the classroom setting, so it might take them extra practice. Every time they do it right, make sure you're also acknowledging those students who may not get praise at home, who may not get praise in other classes. It's really easy to acknowledge students who are quiet and who are doing what you need to do right away, because that's how it is at home too. But those students that may need extra, also acknowledge them. So that's behavior-specific praise. When you do this, the magic number is 5 to 1. So 5 positive behavior acknowledgements to 1 correction or criticism. This actually comes from the Gottman Institute, where they study relationships. So you can also use this in your partnerships or your home life or with your cat. So you can do 5 positive acknowledgements to 1 correction, and then they're more likely to do it. And then the last strategy that I want to share when it comes to relationships is the 2 to 1 method. So it's called 2 by 10. I don't know why I put 2 to 1, but 2 by 10. Sorry about that. So 2 by 10 is if you are struggling to build a relationship with this one student, right? And you're like, I don't know how to build a relationship with this student. He doesn't want to talk to me. He's sitting in the back with his hood on. He's super quiet, not participating. What am I supposed to do here? So this is a strategy that I've personally used in the classroom a bunch of times. But basically, you talk to the student for 2 minutes, 10 times. And it could be about, trying not to make it about school, but it could be like, I actually will tell you a story real quick. But I had this student who kept coming in, very quiet, did his work, but it was hard for me to build a relationship with the student. But 4 times a week, he wore to school a sweatshirt that said Metallica. And so one day I was like, okay, well, I'm going to ask him about his sweatshirt today. And so I saw him at the door when I was greeting him. And I said, hi, Jesse. I see that you have a Metallica sweatshirt on. Is that your favorite band? And so then he started talking about Metallica. And then the next day I was like, okay, well, I have to be ready. So I started Googling albums by Metallica. I don't know that band very well, so I'm sorry if people are appalled in here. But I started looking up albums about Metallica. And then I had additional questions for him the next day. And he said that he's seen 3 Metallica concerts with his dad. That's something they bond over. And then I saw him bring his skateboard to school. So I started asking him about skating. And I was just asking him about things that he was wearing or had. I've also done this when students bring Chromebooks to school and they have stickers on their Chromebooks. And I've asked them about their stickers before. So it could be something small like that. And then he started communicating in class. And then he started doing pair share on purpose, just like I asked. And so that started building a relationship to where he wanted to come to my class, to where he wanted to participate and do well. So it could be something as small as that. And the whole briefing is also in the resource page. So if that's the one you want to take with you in your pocket today and try throughout the year, you can do that. But I am going to give you time to explore in the sandbox, as they say in tech prep. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. So we're going to explore, okay? So in the resource guide, there's a section called Exploring Practical SEL Strategies. I'm going to put the resource guide one more time in here. CASEL provides general sample teaching activities that support the Common Core state standards. They also have a high school English specific one, but you could scaffold down to middle school. So if you're thinking about, okay, well, how do I do SEL, or what's one thing I can do this year that aligns with my content? You can click on the one that says English. So if you are a middle school, high school ELA, ALL, ELD, you might find something in there. So you can click the second one. If you are a social science or history in here, they do have a middle school social science that's by core competency. Then they have teaching activities that you can do. So that's down below, and that can be scaffolded up for high school. So if you're a history, social science person, the third bullet's for you. Everyone else the first bullet's for you, which is the general sample teaching activities that support the core competencies. This can be done in whatever content, but we're just going to spend the next 10 minutes just exploring. So you can look at them, you can say, oh, that aligns with a novel I teach. Oh, I can do that before a lab experiment. Oh, I can do this. So just kind of explore it a little bit. Okay. Try not to get too overwhelmed. Okay. When we come back, we're going to share in the chat just 1 to 2 strategies that you want to do this year. Just 1 to 2. That is all. If you don't want to touch these, you don't have to. And you can do something that has to do with relationships. Okay. Any clarification questions? Or what kind of clarification questions do you have that I can help you with? Sorry, open-ended question. I don't hear anyone or anything in the chat. Perfect. I can email you about that. And I need clarification on that as well. Okay, so we're going to spend the next 10 minutes. Again, go to the resource guide, pick the one that's right for you, and explore what might SEL look like in your content or in your classroom. I see your comment, Deborah. I loved advisory too. So something that I've seen is a welcoming ritual. So you have like a question that helps build community in your classroom. I've seen a Google form that's like an SEL check-in every Monday. So I can put that in the chat as well as an additional strategy. But also the novels you teach or the short stories or things like that have a lot of opportunity for those social emotional elements. Good question. I think that with students, it's knowing that the door is open, right? So they know if you say it up front while you do your syllabus of, hey, if you need anything, I'm here. And this is what I can do to provide you. And with that check-in and those 2 to 10, right? So getting to know your students, they'll know you're there. And so I think that's a start, would be my suggestion. We'll come back in about 5 minutes. Take your time exploring. Okay. So as you explored, or if you're still exploring, I apologize for interrupting your train of thought. In the chat, if you could just put 1 or 2 strategies that you're just, yep, this aligns to my teacher persona, my classroom. I'm going to try these 2 this year. Okay, 2 things. What are 2 things you're going to do this year? One to two. It's okay if it's 1. What are 1 to 2 things you're going to do brilliantly that align to you? Make clear I statements. I love that. Two by 10, yes. Oh, you saw the video. Wonderful. There's extra resources in there. Creating a belonging classroom. breathing and mindful listening. Oh, that's such a good idea, Steve. So using the CASTLE competencies and analyze them against a character. Oh, nice. 2 by 10, developing those relationships. Barbara, I love that. Routinely authentic reasons. As you go through the document, you might have noticed the word routinely, right? So not doing it just once, but have it happen more than once. Have it be a routine. Modeling. Yeah, you probably saw a lot of modeling. So I'm going to model as the staff member, right? And then routinely doing things. Checking out the door. Yes. Saying their name when praising. Yes. So instead of like pointing, right? So saying their name. Okay. A step past this would be knowing whether they want to be publicly acknowledged or acknowledged at their table, right? So that's a difference too. Students that are not extroverted, but introverted, sometimes they don't like to be publicly acknowledged. So making sure, you know what to do with that. Let's see, checking out the door. Ooh, the think strategy. Thank you, Raul. Helping older students to develop vocabulary and describe emotions. Yes. Breathing techniques. Yes. Routinely examining problems or moral situations from history. Oh, nice. Apply group decision-making to choosing a community service project. Yep. Perfect. So we all have something that we're going to bring into this year. As I get new strategies, I'll make sure to put them on this resource page. So if you want to document it, you can. If you want to save it somewhere in your drive, you can. Another thing I've seen for math teachers in the room, there's also a strategy where it looks like a graph and it's separated by emotions. And then students let you know what color they are. So it looks, I'll put it on here right now, actually. It looks something like this, and I put it on the second page. So how are you feeling? I'll find the one that looks like a graph. Looks like this. I'll find the one that looks like a graph and give it to the math teachers in the room. All right, very nice. Okay, it is almost time for us to go. How sad. We need to extend this session longer next time. But I am so excited I got to share this space with you today. Hopefully you have an understanding of what SEL is, what are the 5 competencies, and what this can look like in my classroom. Even doing those check-ins at the doors, right? That helps build relationships. Your presence helps them self-monitor their own behavior because they're seeing. So it's all tied together. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Patty, for putting that in. 2 by 10, those breathing techniques. Okay. Wonderful. And so again, thank you so much for putting those strategies in the chat. A reminder that SEL is the plate. We need to start there. And SEL includes relationship building so that they reach the expectations that you have in the classroom. Thank you so much. If you would like to connect with me at any time when it comes to maybe some other SEL strategies, or if you would like me to keep you accountable to the ones that you put in the chat, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to build a relationship with you as well. And so my email is right here. Again, my name is Hayley. And I will put the evaluation in the chat, but it's also on our resource guide. All right. And we timed it perfectly. It's 3:29. Unless you want to stay later with me, whoever put that in the chat, till 8:30, maybe. I won't be here, but you can be here and explore resources. Please make sure to submit an evaluation. I always want to do better every year. Got it, Joshua. Thank you. Of course, of course. Bye, Morgan. Bye, Fabian. Bye, Barbara. Bye, Tiana. Bye, Alexandra. If you want to also have another session tomorrow regarding our own self-care. So if you want to join me there and you really appreciated my facilitation skills, you can see me there tomorrow afternoon. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Yeah, Patty. Yay, Deborah, I'm so happy to hear that.
Bye, Hayley. It's great seeing you. A
Nice seeing you
wonderful
too.
class. You just get better and better.
Oh, thank you, Lori. It's so good to see you. Of course. Of course, of course. You're the best, Jennifer. I'll see you. Are you coming tomorrow? Maybe.
No, unfortunately, I have something else scheduled during that time.
I'll email you the recording. I'll email you the recording. Bye.
Awesome.
Have a good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right. Anything else I can help anyone else with? Miss Cicere, do you have any questions I can help with? Yes. I see your hand up.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm just filling out the
evaluation.
Thanks.
Not a problem. It was so good to see you and hear your voice.
Likewise. Have a great one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Hi, Teresa. Is there anything I can help you with? Or Cameron, are you the one who wanted to stay till 8:30? Okay. I'm going to stop recording.